Hello and welcome to another edition of Agenda 2063 TV show, the only show in Ghana, the region and continent, telling you authentic stories about Africa's development. And even though we have spent the better part of some episodes telling you about the African Continental Free Trade Area, we always come back down to issues around Agenda 2063 and its development, because it's important, it's critical to the conversation about where Africa needs to be and where it needs to go. So my name is Emmanuel K. Benson Jr. I'm your regular host. Thank you once again for spending time with me. You're going to have a great show. We'll be right back. All right, so welcome back from the break. So as usual, we're going to have our two segments, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism Watch and then the Year on East Africa. With APRM, we just want to go back to basics a bit. It's a new year, so it's important to remind viewers about what the African Peer Review Mechanism is. So the Africa Peer Review Mechanism is a voluntary assessment of member states, how they are doing, how they are faring on a set of parameters. How are they doing in good governance? How are they doing as far as decentralization is concerned? And all these other very important issues. However, not all member states are part of it. Right now we have about 39, around 40 member states that have acceded to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, which means we have about 50 more countries to go. Now, there's not enough time because by 2023, the hashtag being towards universal accession by 2023, almost all member states should have acceded to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, which means that in the next 1.5 years, we should really have gotten all those 15 countries. So the question then is, what are we going to do as Africans to make sure we put pressure on our member states to do the right thing and sign up to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism? It's an important thing. The Africa Peer Review Mechanism is an important institution. Just last December, they started having discussions around the African Governance Report 2021. What is it that Africans need to see by 2063? Is it a bright future? Is it a negative future? Is it a future where nothing is working? And largely, we are happy to say that the studies show that many young Africans are optimistic about the future of Africa, the future of 2063, where they need to be in 2063, which gives us hope that this conversation on these institutions of the African Union is actually making sense. It's going somewhere. So the Africa Peer Review Mechanism is an important institution. It's coming out with all these important reports, the Africa Governance Report, which I recommend you Google and have a read through. It'll give you a sense of how Africans themselves are doing good governance and what they need to do better. But also, most importantly, we need to remind ourselves that if we are to get the Africa we want, these important conversations are important. These are the kind of things that we need to do. So if you've never heard of the APRM, you have heard it now. I hope that you'll go out and take a look, but I also hope you stay with subsequent episodes so that we'll be able to help unpack more of what the Africa Peer Review Mechanism has done and what it's going to do for you to get the Africa you want and the Africa we all want. Thank you once again for this segment. Hope to give you another exciting one next time when we come back to a very exciting episode. So we'll be right back. So welcome back from the break, and again, here on East Africa. East Africa is one of my favorite regions. There's always a lot of very exciting things happening there. So I'm happy to tell you that you just missed a very important festival. It's called the Cannes Festival, hashtag the Cannes Festival. You can find it on Twitter. It's they're talking a lot about knowledge, art, and networking in Tanzania, some part of Tanzania. They said northern Tanzania, where they brought together a lot of musicians, activists, and all these people to have a very important conversation on Africa's development agenda. This year's the first lady, so-called first lady of Kenyan hip-hop, was there. She's called Nazizi Hij. East Africa also, Reggae Kings were also there, as well as a lot of very interesting East African outfits that are doing very interesting things around Africa's development. So with this Cannes Festival, we believe that it's an important thing to follow, because it looks like with all the things that are happening around the continent, there's some exciting spaces that one needs to be and one needs to follow. And we are very happy to see that Tanzania is the one that is hosting this, even though we are hoping also that Tanzania will work harder at ensuring that the COVID issues are addressed, because we know that the cases are there, but someone is denying that the cases are high and are present. We hope that one they'll be able to sort it out. But let's keep our eye on the ball for this Cannes Festival for next year and subsequent years, because we believe that these are the kind of things that need to happen in different spaces if, again, we are to get the Africa we want. So take a look again once on Twitter, hashtag the Cannes Festival. That's the Cannes, K-A-N Festival. And hope you get some very interesting and fascinating insights about the annual Pan-African Festival, as it is called, in the beautiful country of Tanzania, where if you're in Ghana, you will know that you do not need a visa to travel to Tanzania. So I hope other countries also follow suit and relax the visas, all in the name of the African Continental Free Trade Area, so that you can move freely from one country to the next. So here ends our year in East Africa. We hope to come to you next time with more exciting editions. Thank you. And we're going to get straight into our guest, Juliet Amwa, who will help us understand how the whole elections went with the all-media tracking system that they use for Pen Plus Bytes. Thank you. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. My name is E.K. Benson Jr. I'm happy to be here once again. We're going to be speaking to our special guest who's been here before with us. Juliet Amwa is Executive Director of Pen Plus Bytes, and she's going to remind you what they do, because we're going to have a very important follow-up conversation about what they did during the elections 2 months ago. So, Juliet Amwa, nice to have you once again in the studio.
Thank you, Manu.
Pen Plus Bytes, a very interesting title. Tell us once again, especially for those who were not able to catch it last time, what Pen Plus Bytes does, very briefly. Then we'll just zoom into what you did during the elections and why the role of the institution was very instrumental.
So thank you, Emmanuel. So Pen Plus Bytes is an organization that is 20 years this year. And we have focused on building the capacity of media persons and journalists. We also have evolved a little bit. And what we're doing in over the last decade or so now is to actually look at governance and perfecting governance models and governance systems. And we're doing that using technology. And so all the new digital tools and digital channels that you can think of, those are what we are using to help governments and development workers get the outcomes that they want to get.
Digital channels at this time, at an age of COVID, sounds very important and very popular. How are you coping, especially given this part of the world digital channels are at least the frequency, at least the fluidity, so to speak. How do you manage?
Yeah, and that's why we focus on both the use of those technologies and also the offline engagement of the users of those tech. So if we went into a rural community, for example, it's well and good to tell them how to use a smartphone. It's well and good to tell them how to use search engines on the internet, but they may not even have the infrastructure. And so there's a place for human-machine collaborations. And so we're always taking it offline, explaining the technology offline by using community-based organizations and focal persons who will be within the community, so that if it is an app, for example, that is tracking in Ghana the school feeding program or any social protection programs that, or the delivery of any goods and services, public goods and services, for example.
Yes.
And we wanted to track the quality or the access to that service. We would say to the community that, look, we want to hear your feedback.
Okay.
How do we hear your feedback? We can't come in and out of the community. Here's an app. It might be a mobile app. It might be a platform, a mashed up platform that allows you to text or interact and to tell us what you're seeing within your community. That we then synthesize and send off to the duty bearers. That's very technical, highbrow. And so what we will do with the focal persons or the community-based organization that I talked about is to have them go to the community and then be the ones that are using the platform to get the information to the duty bearers here in Accra at a national or state level. So we're working at the grassroots and using tech as an amplifier so that the problems that they're facing in accessing those public goods are brought to the fore through these websites and tech solutions, and then these are sent on to the duty bearers for decision making. So essentially we're closing the feedback loop.
Fantastic. Still sticking with tech as an amplifier, I think Pen Plus Bytes has been very consistent for the past couple of years. I think one of the organizations that has been doing very well in tracking using a number of systems, how elections are done in Ghana. I think, when did you exactly start doing that tracking, if you can remind audiences?
So for every election year, every election cycle, we start in June, 6 months to the election. Our elections in Ghana are usually in December, so we start in June. And in June, we're giving, we're amplifying the work that the Commission for Civic Education does in Ghana. We're amplifying the work that the electoral management body, in our case, the Electoral Commission, is doing. And so we're sending out information about how to vote, what are the key messages. We're giving you bite-sized information about what the candidates are saying. And we're tracking all of that and passing it through infographics, through small skits and different little videos, you know, and animations. And we're putting out that information that these duty bearers have. We're amplifying it and feeding it to society.
That's quite some work, though. All very communication-related things, which obviously is very important. But specifically, what exactly do you do on election day? Even though you've gotten 6 months to prepare, but on election day you do it, what exactly? Maybe help us understand.
Right. So we had, for this election and for the last 4 elections in Ghana, that's 2012. No, 2008. Yeah, 2008, 2012, 16, and 20. So for 4 elections running, what we've decided to do on election day itself. And again, it's not just on election day. Our work can't be just on election day, otherwise we will have set up to fail. So we have what we call an all-media tracking center. And the all-media tracking center is set up for 72 hours, 1 day before the election, on the day of the election itself, and then 1 day after the election. So it's 72 hours during that period. What does the All Media Tracking Center do? We have about 50, 60 volunteers who are sitting behind various monitors, TV, radio, these are the traditional stations, and then also behind a huge monitor which we have built a program on. The program is an aggregator. the aggregator crawls on social media to get some keywords. So if we put in the keywords such as ballot snatching, which is very common in Ghana, or we put in, you know, frozen BVR kits or long queues. These are all keywords that we feed the system.
Okay.
The system then crawls on Twitter, Facebook, and so on, and picks out anyone who is tweeting to complain about these issues.
Oh, okay.
Once they're tweeting and saying, look, I'm standing in this polling station in East Legon area, and for the past 3 hours, we haven't been able to vote, or because there's no indelible ink, or there's no such this and that. People will tweet about it or put comments on Facebook. Our program goes and catches that kind of information and puts it into a processor, which we then see in our office. The guy who's monitoring the platform is then able to take out that, and we have a group of verifiers who are verifying to say, look, here is what our aggregator has brought to our notice. There's lots of people tweeting this. Is it fake news or not? And the only way to cross-check that is both by going online and searching if there are news media carrying that kind of story, or actually calling them, our embeds in the society. So we had journalists that we were working with who would be at those polling stations around the country, and we would call them and ask them, is it true that you haven't been able to vote for 3 hours? Once the verifier gets that information, they put it back on the system to say, this is verified true or verified false. The verified true now gets sent as a report to the Electoral Commission in real time. So we've already, that's why I say our work doesn't start on election day.
Yes, yes,
it always starts a long time before the election. So by this time, we have already spoken to the Electoral Commission, and we have a liaison or liaison there, who we will then give the information to say polling stations X, Y, and Z are, you know, not working because of what this, that, and this, and these are verified issues. You need to resolve them. Now,
we're speaking to Juliet Amwa, Executive Director of Pen Plus Bytes. She's here today to give us part 2 of how it all went during Ghana Decides 2020. There are, and I think there were a number of CSOs and NGOs that were active on that day, but what we know about Pen Plus Bytes is its unique ability with the system that it already has. We're just learning about the aggregator, how it all works, and so on and so forth. And those are very useful things for us. Once again, a reminder of, you know, Africans doing things themselves, African organizations doing things, which is the kind of thing that we like to hear on this show. So back to you once again, Juliet. So this system that you have, is there any way in which you think it's a model that can be replicated for other countries and the elections, maybe in the sub-region, for example?
Definitely, and we've used the same system. We've got a project that we call the African Elections Project, and that project's been running for 15 years now. And what we do when we do get funding, because that's one of the things, is to take the equipment in there. Because I say funding because, yes, we use a lot of volunteers. We use a lot of data. We do have to have a physical space in which to set up, and we can't have offices in all of these spaces. But in the events that we have done, in this case, we did it for Mali in 2012 or something like that. And we've done remotely for Uganda. What we would do is that it's the same thing. We go into the society, we ask them, what are the sorts of things that go wrong or right on an election day? So from there, we get our keywords, because remember that the computer or the robot only works as much as you've given it.
It's, yes, to work.
You know, so it's what you're teaching the robot to go and do that it does.
Yeah.
And so we give as much information. We go into the community and we say, what are the issues around your elections? Is it the policies? Is it the political statements? Maybe the manifesto promises?
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that go wrong on an election day? Ballots, equipment, riots, picketing.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Rains, maybe because you're holding elections during the rainy season.
Mm-hmm.
We put all of those into the system.
Okay.
And then we replicate what I have just explained,
Mm-hmm.
which is that you have to have somebody from the electoral management body who's willing to listen and willing to take on the reports. You have to have a group of verifiers who are verifying what the robots are bringing back from the field.
Okay.
And you have to have journalists or other sorts of volunteers in the field who are feeding you the stories and helping you verify.
Wow.
So it can be replicated.
So that's basically, the verification is to ensure that nothing comes out as fake news, I suppose.
That's correct.
Wow, and that's a lot of people. The system is quite comprehensive, I dare say, but that's quite a lot of people to ensure that something that goes out. Are you able to have the verifiers focus their attention on that whilst you're also monitoring the elections? Because things can get pretty intense on election day, especially when you have your people out on the field, the agents making sure that they're next to the polling stations and so on. How do you reconcile that, the verification with the fast developments happening on the field?
Yeah. So for the fast development, that's what you need the AI for. That's what you need the aggregator for.
Okay.
Because we can't be everywhere at once, and so it's crowdsourcing the information.
Yeah.
So we're crowdsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
People are tweeting, people are Facebooking, Snapchatting.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is happening. You have one machine that's sitting there getting all that information into a room.
Yeah.
In that room, you have someone looking at the flow of the information and picking out the juicy ones, if you like, and synthesizing that. So that's one or two people. You have maybe 10 verifiers who've got mobile phones and tablets that are then looking at the information. They verify based on news reports. So they are not looking at the social media feed.
Okay.
They are now doing the first verification using media reports. And so if you say that you are in polling station Z and there's been a fire outbreak or guns, we expect that within the 30 or 10 minutes that you're reporting it on Twitter, there will be a news channel that's also reporting it live. And so we go and check for news items.
Okay. Fantastic.
If there are no news items, that's when that group of verifiers who are sitting in the room, they are not in the field.
Yes.
That's when they call journalists or any other volunteers who are in the field. These people are not necessarily people who work with us. These people are people who we have an understanding with, who, as they do their work of monitoring, so they can even be election observer groups that we've spoken to.
Okay.
Like this year, we worked with the EU observer group.
Wow.
This year. So we rely on them, what they are observing in the field, we use as part of the verification process.
So they came to you?
The EU came to us.
Okay, fantastic. So
the
that's some important recognition
Yeah,
there.
the EU observer mission came to us to ask us if we could liaise with them to share information. So we had an agreement to share information between our two groups, as did the Foreign and Commonwealth Office observers. That's the UK and allied observers. They also have there. And then also the Ghana Coalition of Domestic Observers, CODIO,
yes.
as well. So we're working with all these three observer groups who are already in the field. They've got masses of people and volunteers in the field.
Yeah.
And what we have to do is have our 10 verifiers or so get onto the phones and call them and ask them to verify things as we see them unfold.
When you talk about volunteers, I want to revisit the issue of volunteers at this time, because right now we're in an age where it's quite challenging to find a job. You'll end up either spending the rest of your time doing many degrees
Right.
as you're looking for a job or that kind of thing. These volunteers that come to help you, are they given something? Are
They're
they paid
paid.
something? Okay.
Which is why when you ask the question about can this be replicated in other African countries,
Yes.
I said, why not?
Yes.
It is a question of funding. The volunteers are paid
Yes.
because they're there in shifts for
Okay.
72 hours.
Yes.
So yes, they're paid. They're
Okay.
paid transport, they're paid data, they're
Okay.
given equipment to work with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they're housed because they can't go back home for the 3-day period.
Yeah.
They're housed
Okay.
in a hotel
Okay.
so that they can be there because we're running a shift.
Yeah.
We're monitoring the system. You can't sleep.
Yes.
So we're stepping in, even though we have shifts of 10, 15, 20 people per shift,
Yeah.
you still need to have people on standby who, if people are tired, they can. So it's a 72-hour non-sleeping period usually.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So definitely it is something. If you're watching and you know that in the next 4 years, which will be when will that be? 2024.
That's correct. In Ghana.
2024 elections in Ghana. If you know that there's an opportunity, you better start preparing. Is there any background information, background knowledge that they need to have in order to be able to put themselves to this?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Because when you do come, we give you training on what
Okay.
it is we're looking at. And the program is comprehensive.
Okay.
The program uses graph lines to show you linkages between what's going on in terms of this polling station's delay and how that's going to delay the results. It shows you who is saying what. It shows you the concentration of places where what we call hotspots and that sort of thing. So we show you how to read the system. And it's not even everyone who's going to have to read the system, because there are some people who are just monitoring and telling us what's happening on the news and giving us written reports. And there are a different group of people who are looking at the aggregator and pulling out the most important information. And then there's the group of verifiers. We train all of them to look at different aspects of it. We train the journalists and the other observer groups. We have a checklist of what we're looking for, so that they're not on the phone unduly when they're supposed to be. So it's a checklist of BVR kits. Are they there? If not, when did they arrive? So you can actually, I can pick a phone and say BVR kits, and then you can say item 1 or 2. Item 1 being maybe if they haven't arrived.
Okay.
And then item 2 being they're there, but the guys sitting behind them still also haven't arrived. And so if I say item 2, then
they know what to do.
I know what the problem is for that polling station as well.
In an age where we're talking about the Africa we want, we're talking about good governance, peaceful institutions. Do you think that democracy is a good channel through which we're going to improve our development?
Wow, that is a question, a $1 million question.
Yeah.
What are we seeing even in the more established democracy? It's something that my team and I have mulled over. We've laughed at. You know, we've kind of, and it's one of those things that you're not sure how to approach it. Yes, there are pros and cons to a democracy. It's like the question of, are exams the best way to assess a student's knowledge?
Yes.
Well, maybe they're not, but until something better comes along, that's what we have. And so in this day and age, until something better comes along, a different model, which is what African leaders themselves have to come up with. And we're sitting in the AAU Association of African Universities office. Maybe that's what the academia and African politicians ought to look at in terms of what are the new models. Is it democracy and communism combined that will work for Africa? Is it socialism, communism, a bit of democracy? You know, what is it? Or is it authoritarianism? And you know, that's mixed up, so that there are things in the constitution that are vetoed and are what they are. They cannot be so irreducible. Some irreducible truths, and we can't do anything. They're constant. What is it? It's something that the leaders have to look at. But
it was clearly a surprise question, just to get you to think and tell us a little bit about why, therefore, technology, the role of technology going forward, especially with the strange times we are in with COVID, has technology, in your view, especially with this kind of sophisticated system that you have set up, has become the big thing that you would recommend that a lot of up-and-coming, let's say, graduates should probably venture into, because of the kind of opportunities it will open up and their linkages for them to get the Africa they want?
Right, I'm not sure if I understand the question completely, and as you said, perhaps you asked it as a trick question, but we're back on track. But in terms of tech in general, I mean, it's important, especially if we're looking at democracy as something that allows and thrives on voices, as we like to say in Pen Plus Bytes. It thrives on voices, it thrives on participation. For anyone to have a free and fair election, for anyone to have a credible election, it means that it has to be broad-based participation without disenfranchising people, and it has to have information flow so that people are making good decisions, which is why everyone is in a tiffy about the fake news, the rise of fake news, the weaponization of information. Those are all threats to democracy. So to that extent, well, then technology does allow us to amplify voices. Technology does allow us to take information and feed it equally to the masses. So it's not just information that just the educated will get. Our system allows us to feed and break down information so that even the least educated people within our societies have the same level of information for decision making. So to that extent, yes, technology is important. It's something that governments must invest in. I think it's been said in different spheres, both for economic development and all that sort of thing. In terms of the university graduates that you're talking about, and is it worthwhile for them to get into tech? Of course it is. Absolutely. That's the new world. That's where it all is. If you look at COVID and what COVID-19 brought to the table, it was in Ghana that we couldn't even congregate, and there were no campaigns and rallies as we know them. But it didn't stop political parties from canvassing for votes. And they did their canvassing online using digital platforms. And so if you're a digital marketing student or a digital political analyst or whatever, that's where you should be going with your studies. That's where you should be going with your skill sets. Because yes, you did say that employment is tricky in today's age, but there's also a lot of employment, and you have to create that value. You have to create that employment for yourself. And so if tech is the new way of campaigning and you're a political student, political science student, you can't just learn the theories of it. You've got to understand how people are congregating online. You've got to understand how people are mobilizing online. And you have to make models that work both online and offline in terms of strategizing to win political party power.
Are there any challenges that you have had along this journey of the All Media Tracking Center, things that you think need to be done better going forward?
It's certainly the infrastructure and just the cost of data.
Yeah.
And because there are places where people tweet, but they can't sustain the tweets, because that's one of the things that I heard. Beyond just the ballot box, you need to be able to go online and tell us your stories. But data is expensive. And so one tweet per day is probably all that people can afford because they switch off their data. And so the quality of data and the quantum of data that then comes through for us in the back office to analyze is very scanty, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the challenges. The other challenge, as I said, was just the infrastructure. There are places which have not been reached with mobile telephony, or the networks are so bad that you're relying on those people. And those are the hotspots. Those are the hard to reach. In Ghana, we call them the overseas communities, because either they're flooded out or the roads are not good, so nobody else goes there. But those are the communities, because there's no police enforcement, the state can't control them. That's where the hotspots, the guns come, that's where the election violence erupts. But those are the same places where they're deplatformed, and we can't hear what they have to say. And so we can't send help to them. So it's a chicken and egg situation.
That's quite unfortunate. I'm just thinking that I recall seeing a study the other day, I think was it from the World Bank, that indicated that there are countries like Kenya have about 70 to 80% of their population that are fully connected almost all the time. And I can testify that when I speak to friends in Kenya, and we have a WhatsApp call for about 30 to 40 minutes, for example, my call will drop when I'm standing in the same place, around the same place, for about many times over, and theirs will still be on, and they're wondering why has my call dropped.
That's correct.
That can be quite embarrassing.
Yes.
You've been to Kenya a number of times, so I'm taking it to you about your experiences, and you've lived in Kenya too for a number of years, for 2 years. What, in your view, do you think they are doing right that we need to do right? Is it that they're bringing the quality of data, they have brought the cost down to the extent that everybody can afford it and have improved it? I think Safaricom is one of the more dominant ones, and a very good one.
Yeah.
So
I think it boils down to policies.
And what are we doing here? Because then I'm asking this, linking it with the work that you do, because we know, for example, that Kenya looks to us, to Ghana very well, and of course we know the role that Kofi Annan played in their election back in 2008. Supposing Kenya came to you and said, "Come and help us, monitor our elections," I mean, it would be a breeze. I mean, you wouldn't definitely not have a problem. But then, can you also go to them and say, "Well, can you bring Safaricom to and bring it to Ghana so that we can do a what?" Just tell us a little bit about what you think we can do about the data. I know you're not a technical expert on it, but it is so key to what we do. Because even here, sometimes with the programs that we do, we have suffered technical issues. So just tell us a little bit about the experience, that country experience.
So I think that quite broadly, it's to do with the policies. And so what are our telco policies? We've got the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, we've got the Ministry of Communications. What are the policies that they have, and how are they implementing those policies? That's what we need to look at. Because I think that Kenya with their M-Pesa. They're far advanced. I think that worldwide, this whole mobile money platform that we have for payments it originated in Kenya before it even went to India, where it then caught fire, and it's now, you know, all over for third world countries, especially where there are huge non-banked populations who can use their mobile phones to do banking and financial transactions. It all started in Kenya, and if you look at on the balance, the number of games even or mobile apps that are from Kenya on Google Play Store, on Apple, you know, Play Store. It's
embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. You know, they're miles and miles ahead. So if you look at all of that, I would hazard to say that it comes down to the issue of what's the policy, what they set their minds to do, and how are they living it out. Perhaps they have what we had in 2003, 2004, ICT development for all, which has fallen by the wayside. Maybe they have that kind of policy and they've lived it out, where they know that, look, this is the new world. Tech is big money. Let's, first of all, bring down the costs that people like MTN or Safaricom are bringing into the country. Once we make data affordable, and these people cannot charge certain amounts of money, then we look at how we can educate people and get them digital literacy skills. Then after that, once they have good and stable data, so you come and build the infrastructure. If you have a minimum set of infrastructure, we're not allowing you to operate here. So that's a policy that says that MTN or Safaricom or whoever has to have a certain minimum level of infrastructure. They have to go to hard-to-reach communities just the same as they do for urban communities. So once they have that, then they look at the data. In Ghana, until last year or the year before, if you bought 2 gigs of data for whatever, $10, $15, $20, and you were not able to use it within a specific time, it went, it was...
Because there was expiry.
Yes, there was an expiry date. Until last year or the year before in Ghana, where now they call it the rollover. Because otherwise, then you've lost $20 to data that you hadn't used, and so on and so forth. Are you with me?
Yes,
so that's a policy. That's a policy that perhaps exists. I don't know their policies, but perhaps that exists in Kenya, that's allowing the young people good data, good telco infrastructure, a good digital literacy and education platform. They are doing exploits. That's all I can say about that.
So, in fact, as we begin to wrap up, I just want to remind viewers and also listeners that we're having a conversation with Juliet Amwa, Executive Director of 10 Plus Bytes. We've had a very interesting flashback of how the All Media Tracking Center during the elections was used, set up with volunteers, verification systems, and all these kind of things, and how very important it will be for the next election and subsequent elections as well. The irony of it all is that the most important thing that will sustain it, that the challenge that they need to overcome, is data. So even though the conversation was on how it went during the elections and how their system was used, because of the tech conversation around elections, and especially at these very difficult times, it was important to revisit the challenges that they have, which was, we have identified what the biggest one is, data. So we can easily say that the country experience that Juliet has had in Kenya, having lived there and also having seen how Safaricom does very well. If anyone from Safaricom is watching this program, anyone connected is watching, what is it that we need to do very quickly to ensure that it is not just happening in Kenya, that the data is fluid, it's fast, and it's very convenient for all, but for all Africans. Those are the kind of conversations we're having. And I think in subsequent issues and editions, we will be having that conversation, because we are now in a tech world where most of us spend the majority of our time behind screens. And we cannot do this, even for our school kids, if the data is not fast enough. So wanted to tease that issue out for new episodes. So if we really want the Africa we want to get to the Africa we want, these are the kind of things that we need to talk about. But I think Campus Bytes seriously has been doing very well under the very difficult circumstances. We have 5 telcos here, and so it is quite unfortunate that we still are talking challenges of tech. So Safaricom, if you are there, come and help us understand how you did it. But in wrapping up, Juliet, what will therefore be your takeaways? Bearing in mind that we are in a COVID, people say strange times and all these other things, twilight zone, blah, blah. But what would be your takeaway for the young people out there, for researchers, for the academia, for the demographic that will be watching this show, and especially in the context now that we have very big thing around the African Continental Free Trade Area, which people say there's a zeitgeist, all these things. What would be your message from your organization about how far you have come in the 20 years and what can be done, how other organizations can come to you to also learn from the great things that you have done?
So, well, thank you, Manuel. I think that for us at Pen Plus Bytes, our main thing is how to improve governance using technology across Africa. And so what we're in the market for at the moment is collaborators. We want to be able to use collaborators and affiliates across the sub-region and, in fact, the greater African region to maximize and improve the work that we're doing in Ghana. We know that it's great work. We know that tech is getting the results that it needs to get. We're interested in doing the same exact things in Mali, in Senegal, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Nigeria, Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, wherever that people have the need for these sorts of tech inputs. But definitely the key takeaway for us is that tech and the social media platforms and the new digital tools that we have currently, they are important, but we all have to use them carefully and wisely so that we do get the Africa that we need. We can't allow fake news or bits and pieces of misinformation to affect the way that we make decisions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that cautionary note. And thank you, viewers, for taking time out of your busy day and schedule to listen to us. And if you missed the first episode where I interviewed Juliet, where she explained a little bit more about how the organization works, you can always go back to the Association of African Universities TV platforms on YouTube and Facebook. YouTube has 10.7 thousand followers, and the Facebook has a lot of followers as well. So you'll do well to check out all the other programs that's there, as well as the Agenda 2063, other episodes that help speak to us about getting a sense of what is this whole Agenda 2063? Is it the African dream? What is it exactly? These are the kind of conversations that we like to have on this show. So thank you once again, Juliet, for coming. And we hope to be able to speak to you next time when we have another very exciting episode. Thank you. My name is E.K. Benson Jr. I'll come your way next time. Have a great day. Goodbye.
As you can see from the video, basically the vision of WAGBIB was to create a hub for science and a hub for young people. And what we've been trying to do over the years is to mobilize the young talent on the continent, to create an interest in science, to provide an environment that would support the development of science and support the development of the talents that we have on the continent. And I must say that if you look at what we've done since 2014, it has completely exceeded our expectations. When myself and a few colleagues started this in 2014, we had big dreams, but we didn't know how quickly we would get there. And I think that based on what we have seen today and over the last few months about what WAGBIB is doing, it really vindicates our vision and also vindicates the investments that the government of Ghana and all our funding partners have made into this center. This year, the conference theme is on building sustainable research ecosystems in Africa, the lessons that we've learned from the pandemic. For me and WAGBIB as a whole, we have learned several lessons from this pandemic, but three key ones. The first one, I think, is that, which is the good one, the good feel one, is that African scientists actually have a lot to offer. If you look at, what scientists have done across the continent when this pandemic hit, a pandemic that came from nowhere that we were not prepared for, African scientists have stood up, okay, from testing millions and millions of samples across the continent and doing cutting-edge research to guide the responses on, in several countries and across the continent. The role of the Africa CDC and, all the funding partners that have contributed. It has demonstrated that, indeed, African scientists have a lot to offer, and if the support is given, we can be globally competitive. So that's one of the things that we have learned from this pandemic. The second thing that we've learned is that actually the African population can be brought along to enjoy science and engage in science. In Ghana, for example, now words like variants and vaccine efficacy, PCR, antigen testing, these are words that nobody was mentioning, prior to the pandemic. But since the pandemic and the contributions that scientists have made, these have become kitchen table words now. And our mothers and grandmothers talk about these things, talk about Delta variants, and they talk about AstraZeneca vaccine and Pfizer vaccine. These are things that didn't happen before. And they are a good sign that we can engage the people and get them interested in what we are doing. And they can support what we are doing, both the general public and the government as a whole. In Ghana, I remember when the president used to give weekly addresses. Every time he was going to give an address, his team will reach out to us and ask about what variants are in the country, and that is a good sign. That makes it feel good that, science is reaching where it's supposed to reach, and people are appreciating the importance of science. So that's the second lesson from this for me. The third lesson, which is the reality check, which is that in spite of the 1 and 2 I've talked about, Africa, we're still far behind, we're lagging behind. That's why we are sitting here, less than 1% of our population has been vaccinated. Other countries are approaching 80%, getting at least 1 dose, and we are still waiting for others to pass on vaccines to us. And that is really the biggest lesson we should take from this, that we should all resolve that not again should we allow ourselves to be in such a vulnerable situation, in the future. So we should start preparing for the next pandemic, right now. I think if all the African governments or the African leaders, not only those currently in power, but those who have been in power in the past, I think that they will be feeling ashamed that they've allowed the continent to be in this situation. And I think that should be a lesson for the current leaders and those going forward, that we need to change that. We need to resolve that Africa should never be in this situation when the next pandemic comes around. All right, so it's promising to be a great conference. We have a great lineup of speakers, keynote speakers, as well as some of our plenary speakers, and then our fellows showcasing their research. So today we are glad to be joined by so many distinguished people across the world. I'll try to acknowledge those that I can see and those that are online as well. The Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Nsia Sari, is with us. We have in the room the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. Yes, Dr. Jinapo is here. He's here with his team, Mr. Edmond, who is part of the team at GTEC. We have members of the College of Basic and Applied Sciences Advisory Board. Some of them are here and online. We thank them for joining. The Provost of the college is with us. We have the Provost for Research here. We have deans and directors joining us. I'll introduce some of them later. We have the WACBIP Advisory Board Chair, Professor Kip Gore, is joining us online, as well as other advisory board members. I see Dr. Pathogens Lutrot, who's the Director of Technical Coordination. I see Professor Mark Carrington, who's online also. And I think I see Professor Jean Langon, who's one of our collaborators as well. In addition, we have the World Bank team, the World Bank ACE Impact team, led by Himdat. Himdat is online with colleagues from the World Bank. She's the task team leader for the ACE Impact project. We have friends joining us from the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, fellows of the Academy, led by the President, Professor Emeritus Sefadede is with us. Professor Emerita Isabella Kwachi with us. Thank you very much for joining. We have colleagues from the AAU who are part of the ACE Impact project. The ACE project manager, Dr. Sylvia Kandawiri, and her colleagues are joining us online. From AISA and the African Academy of Sciences, we have Dr. Tom Kariuki and his team. They are joining us. Thank you very much. We have other Delta's program directors joining us. Thank you very much. TIBA, we have the leadership of TIBA joining us. Thank you very much. CRIC Africa Network. I already mentioned Dr. Jean Langon and other partners are with us. The Human Cell Atlas team, some of them are with us. We have the Arua Secretary General, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Aiti. He has joined us. Thank you very much. We have our team from the UGCS, led by the Chief Information Technology Officer, Sito is here with us. Thank you very much. We have, I'm coming back to deans and directors. We have Professor Mark Idana, who's the Dean of Physical and Mathematical Sciences, who is with us, representing the Provost, is online. We have Professor Eric Dankwa, who is the Director of WACI, one of the big research people in the University of Ghana. We have Professor Dorothy Yeboamenu, who is the Deputy Director for WACBIP. She's here with us. She's also from the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. And I hope I've covered everybody. Yeah, okay, I think I've covered everybody. So we're going to get started. I'm going to call I'm going to introduce the chair, and then I'll call other dignitaries to join him on the table up here, and then we get started. So it's my pleasure to introduce the chair for this function. So the chair for today holds his BSc and MPhil in Agric Economics from the University of Ghana. He also did his PhD in Agric Science with specialization in Agric Economics from the University of Bonn. And prior to his current position, he has been the head of department of the Economics Division of the Institute for Statistical, Social, and Economic Research, as ISE. He also became deputy director and then director of ISE. On the national level, he is the chair of the Council of the Ghana Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, and president of the Ghana Association of Agric Economics. On the international stage, he is a board member of the International Center for Evaluation Development based in Kenya. So, currently, he's the Pro-Vice Chancellor for Research, Innovation, and Development here in this great University of Ghana. So it's my honor to welcome.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, friends of the media, colleagues joining us online from other parts of Ghana and the world, and in person, I wish to welcome you all to the 5th West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens Research Conference. I'm delighted to be asked to chair the opening session of this conference on the theme, Building Sustainable Research Capacity in Africa, Lessons from the Pandemic. I would like to take the opportunity to welcome you all to the University of Ghana. The West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, established in 2014 at the University of Ghana, is supported by the government of Ghana through the World Bank African Centers of Excellence project and the Deltas Africa Initiative. The University of Ghana is happy to host this center because its activities fit into the broader vision of the university, which is to become a world-class research-intensive university. Since its establishment in 2014, WABIC has provided fellowship to 164 master students, 92 PhD students, 22 postdoctoral fellows from 14 different African countries. WABIC's research has contributed significantly to the response to the current COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana through a generation of real-time data on genomic sequencing and seroprevalence studies. This work has provided key information on the prevalence of COVID-19 and the distribution of SARS-CoV-2 variant to better inform public health interventions, including infection control measures and vaccine deployment. And with this achievement, WABIC is a major hub for biomedical research in the West Africa sub-region. WABIC has leveraged the African Centers of Excellence project to win over $20 million in additional grants from other global funding agencies, including the Wellcome Trust of the UK, National Institutes of Health in the US, Royal Society in the UK, and recently the Open Society through the African Research University Alliance, ARUA. These are initiatives to ensure that the center is sustainable and also be able to contribute to support the university to achieve its research-intensive vision and the country at large. On research impact, WABIC has produced over 250 publications, which are published in high-impact journals, and also contributed to public health policies. During this 3-day conference, some of these will be presented by its fellows, and members of the Center's international faculty drawn from institutions across the world. The University of Ghana, through its Office of Research, Innovation and Development, will continue to support WABIC in its activities to achieve its objectives and provide an environment for it to be innovative and efficient. Finally, I welcome you once again to this conference and to the University of Ghana, and I wish you fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Provisi. So we're going to have remarks from some of our stakeholders. Some are online and some are here. So we'll try to take the online ones first, and then we come back here. Dr. Tom Kariuki, if you're online, can we have your remarks? Dr. Tom Kariuki is the Director of Programs at AISA, which stands for Accelerating Excellence in Science in Africa, and the leader of the Deltas program as well. So.
Network and all the other 11 networks of Deltas that have been doing a great job over the last 5 years. And I would like to congratulate WorkBit Network for faithfully abiding to the Delta theory of change. The theory of change was an agreement that we signed together in 2015 with the University of Ghana, where you are hosted as a lead organization. Let me just highlight a few areas which I think we are very satisfied to see the successes of this network. The center applied for 5 years of support and then additional 1 year of cost extension from us, and that was approved, and hoping that all the completion will be available to everyone by the end of August this year. And COVID has been a challenge for all of us, and WorkBit researchers and fellows, we want to congratulate you for the expertise in biology, immunology, bioinformatics and genetics that you have been actively involved for COVID-19 related research over the past 1 year. And we are aware that you have been involved in national response with the government of Ghana for activities including the processing and testing of samples, validation of testing of kits for analysis, sequencing for COVID pathogen, and analysis of genome sequencing. So I want to congratulate all of those of the researchers of WorkBit who have been involved in these activities. One of the pillars for Deltas Africa is been scientific quality and how we can build excellence. And WorkBit has told us that you have set up a strategic planning committee with the mandate of developing a plan for WorkBit for the next 5 years. So we'll be looking forward to hear a little bit more about that strategy. I want to recommend that we are aware of many articles, a few hundred now, directly associated with WorkBit, the network itself, and specifically for the Deltas Award, more than 70 articles out of you. I just want to challenge you on one particular aspect of this, Gordon and the team, which is that when it comes to publications, outputs, or outcomes of Deltas Africa, it should really reflect diversity, it should reflect equity and inclusivity. And when I look at the data that we have, is that there is still a huge proportion of male authors compared to female authors. Maybe you can provide us with more data on it, but we know that 82% of publications are coming from male and only 13% is coming from the female. And so I think collectively we can begin to understand how we can right that wrong and how we can make sure that there is this diversity and inclusivity. On area of research training, I congratulate you and the team for all the postdoctoral fellows who have completed your fellowship and publishing as you go along. And we also want to see that it's been very impressive to see the number of interns, master's fellows, PhD fellows, postdoctoral fellows, a total of 32 postdoctoral fellows who have come through this network. We have also been tracking with the scientific representative on how you are doing your immunology, bioinformatics, genetics, and how the public engagement events and media communication are being done. And I'm aware that there is even a toolkit for genetics hearing impairment, which we are working with Apple's Wonecom to make it a toolkit that is being available for anybody who are suffering from hearing impairment. Then, of course, I want to say that on research management and environment, our role and our collaboration with you is to have a center that has awarded additional grants, even as Deltas now moves from Deltas 1 to Deltas 2. We want to see, of course, acquired more funding coming through to your center, and I know you have been very successful in doing that. So overall, I would say that this has been really a beautiful pipeline of producing globally competitive African scientists that are driving data sciences, decision making at national and global level. And we hope that there will be sustainable research ecosystem within the work with network institutions established over the coming years. But let me finish off Professor Wandere and the team and all the distinguished guests. The future of Deltas Africa is at the point where we are making decisions about the future. Congratulations to Professor Wandere and the team for putting in a very strong application for Deltas Africa 2. And we have been in communication with this team. We therefore have made a conditional award to WorkBip. So congratulations to Gordon and the team. But this is still pending before final awards are done later as the funders and other partners agree on moving forward. And just to remind everyone that we as the managers for Deltas Africa and what we are supported and are uniformity in our decisions with our funders, including Welcome FCDO, which is formerly DFID. There is therefore an undergoing change at the AS. So after 5 years of being hosted at the AS, the key flagship programs, including Deltas Africa, there are funders who have said they will be transitioning out into a new dispensation, and therefore there is change underway. Communication has been shared recently with the Deltas leaders and other grantees. We expect that there will be changes in the grant conditions of 31st July 2021 due to funding flow changes. Communication will be sent to all the grantees after 31st of July from how their funding will be sustained to avoid disruption to the research work. So this change and the future will ensure business continuity to consolidate and expand the key programs that are delivering science and innovation in Africa. And therefore, I would like to end by saying that all of this, of course, is being done jointly, fully supported by all the various stakeholders, including the funders, the African entities, and all the other key stakeholders as we move forward to sustain good work that is being done. So congratulations to WorkBip, and thank you, Gordon Wandere and the team for the opportunity to share those thoughts this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Tom Kariuki. All right, we're going to take quick comments from the other guests who are online. Professor Abraham Anang, Director of Noguchi, if he's online, can make some brief remarks.
Hello, good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
I'm very happy to be on the platform at this WorkBip conference. And I'd like to say congratulations to WorkBip for organizing the conference, especially at this time of the pandemic. And also I'd like to acknowledge that Noguchi and WorkBip has a very long history. As the establishment of WorkBip itself was done by collaboration between Noguchi, Memorial Institute for Medical Research of the University of Ghana, and the Biochemistry and Molecular Biology Department of Ghana. And WorkBip is a partner that we have worked with very strongly over the years. And I wish to acknowledge that since the COVID-19 pandemic emerged in 2020, of course from 2019 late to 2019, but especially in 2020, our response and working with WorkBip have been a very good partnership collaboration. And we've worked with WorkBip and at Noguchi being the main early testing center for COVID-19. and getting what we, human resource capacity to support. We've had a good experience working together to provide evidence for policy decisions by the government of Ghana to be able to manage the pandemic response. We've also shared a good experience with working together on genomic sequencing for COVID-19. We have our specialized programs also going on, and I'm happy to indicate that the Enrichment Rights for Medical Research is always very pleased to continue to work with WACDIP. And I believe that the future is going to be bright, especially concerning building sustainable research capacity. So because these are areas that we need to continue to work together to ensure that we are able to put in place systems, capacity that can withstand or can go into the future. Our collaboration to build training at postdoctoral level, PhDs, MPhils, Noguchi, fellows, and helping to build capacity at WACDIP have all been a very important win-win situation that I'd like to highlight strongly at this meeting. I'd like to once again congratulate Professor Gordon Awandari and the team at WACDIP and to encourage them to continue to move in the direction that they are moving, especially also in terms of collaboration and partnerships, and in terms of strengthening the systems for resilience, especially for Ghana, but not only Ghana, but also for the West African sub-region and beyond. It is my pleasure to be on the platform. I hope that I will be heard because the network has not been good at all. And I'd like to say congratulations at this time. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Father Abraham. And we heard you loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you. Great. We have Himdat from the World Bank, if she's ready. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Gordon, and thank you to all the team. It's fantastic that we're having this event and the hybrid model of face-to-face and virtual linkage. We had a little bit of things, but I think it's worth doing it just because of the impact and the large numbers of professors that can participate to learn from experiences. From the World Bank perspective, the Africa Centers of Excellence program actually is a huge investment in higher education in the sub-region. It is one of our flagship programs. We've been working with Prof. Gordon and team at the University of Ghana since the first project, which was launched in 2014, which the program introduced innovative elements around competitive higher education, where it was a large first-scale regional competition across 9 countries in West Africa, and WACDIP was one of the top centers that was successful in the selection. And it's really, I say this because research and education aspects has gone throughout. I mean, we are now in 2021, and that initial investment back in 2014 or so has grown and shown that with the right opportunities, funding, and the right instruments, the sky is the ceiling in terms of scientific response and the work that has been done so far at the WACDIP Center. Very briefly, in terms of the actual impact that WACDIP has had, it's very clear both at the national level, and it's very nice to see the Iwuchi Institute part of this discussion, and I think that partnership has been so strong and fundamental to those response, but also at the regional level, because WACDIP is also a regional center that is supporting not only Ghana, but building the capacity within our sub-region, because infectious diseases is an issue that doesn't only affect one country, but it crosses borders, and building that scientific capacity within our within our countries and within our continent, doing the testing, the thousands and thousands of samples that have been done, within WACI, but also the genomic sequencing. And here, this is something that is super important to understand where the viruses are coming from, how they're spreading. And WACI is one of our several centers. We also have the famous African Center of Excellence of Infectious Genomic Diseases, ASTRID, that is working so collaboratively with WACI. And in terms of the education side, because right now I know the conference is focused very much on the applied research, which is excellent, but at the education level as well, in terms of the master's program, in terms of the training program, in terms of training the trainers that are able to continue this, not only now but in the future, it's also fundamental to the role of the work being done. And I'm happy that the partnership with Africa Academy of Sciences, in terms of the quality aspects, that is also super important. And we see the international accreditation of the programs that WACI is within the improved teaching and learning environment with the building that we're probably sitting in right now funded. So that it's very important that the right labs and the right technical centrifuge or bioinformatics systems, you name it, is available to the students to allow them to do this top level work. And I always, reference Prof. Gordon's work. He was one of the groundbreakers when it came to getting international accreditation. I know that leadership and the strong support from the university management, the rector, the vice chancellor, and the government, it's all an enabling environment to support the success of the center. The center is not an island of excellence on its own. It is important that the work being done there is also integrated into the University of Ghana and also into the national system in Ghana and the regional scientific responses for us. So I'll stop there and just say a super thank you to everyone that is connected. I saw a very rich discussion with a lot of fellows and various researchers, and I'll try and join in. But congratulations to the team, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Himdat. If we have the president of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, Emeritus Professor Sefadede, if he's online, can do his remarks.
Distinguished participants to this very important conference, I bring you a warm greeting from the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Gordon Awandare is a fellow of the Academy, and we've been following his leadership in bringing together the core of scientists to address critical national problems. It's a delight to know the role the center is playing both locally and internationally. We at the Academy are privileged to have him as a fellow and see to other young scientists to leadership in the scientific arena. We would like to wish you well as you develop WACI to higher and higher levels, and also new programs that will help anchor science in national development. The theme of your conference, looking at lessons from the pandemic, and I can say that your center and other centers have shown that the scientists are needed to solving critical national problems. We wish to encourage you to continue on this effort so that those who take national policy decisions will recognize the importance in investing in scientists for helping in solving critical national problems, especially if they are based within our own countries. On this note, I would like to thank you for the invitation to the Academy, and I'm sure that fellows of the Academy will participate fully in this conference, and we wish you well as you proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Okay. Is there anybody else online? No? Okay. So we'll now come here and we take our remarks from the Deputy Director General, GTEC, Dr. Ahmed Jinapo.
The Pro Vice Chancellor, who sits in as the chairman for this occasion. As I was introduced, my name is Ahmed Jinapo. I work with the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, a body that came about as a result of the coming into being of the erstwhile National Council for Tertiary Education and the National Accreditation Board. I stand here on behalf of the Commission and the Director General, Professor Mohamed Salifu, who should have been here, but unfortunately, he happens to be at another very important program. He congratulates you for your 5th conference. It's not something that is easy to be done. And he wants me to inform you that he's fully in support of what you are doing. And the Commission has always demonstrated its commitment to supporting bodies like yours through the Africa Center of Excellence. In fact, not too long ago, somewhere in May, we came here to visit and to more or less have engagements with you relative to what you've been doing. Now I go back to the topic or the theme for this conference, building sustainable research capacity in Africa, lessons from the pandemic. I know during this 3-day conference, a lot of lessons are going to be brought up, but one thing that I want to stand on relative to the address by the director had to do with the kind of encouragement and happiness that he had when the center, and specifically him, was consulted on a number of occasions when the president was about to speak. I think the refreshment that comes with it also needs to raise our consciousness of the need for a synergy or the need for a strong relationship between research, academic, and policy. In fact, if there is any lesson that, for me, emanated from this pandemic, then the responses, it is very, very important for whatever we do in the 4 corners of the academic environment to be connected to what happens in society or policy, so to speak. Because this pandemic, disastrous as it's been, has put WACBIT at the center of the relevance of academia to national development and societal developmental aspirations. And I think on that note, it is very important for WACBIT to be applauded for taking a central role at a time that we were so challenged that we didn't know where to go. I think WACBIT deserves a hand of applause. And whilst I speak to the commendation of WACBIT, I think the leadership that was demonstrated by the director is also worthy of commendation. In the sense that I think most people probably never heard of the name Awandare, even in the 4 corners of this university. But by the unfortunate incidents of COVID-19 and the central role that he played, today that name is a name that, at least once it is mentioned, it is associated with what? COVID-19 in Ghana. Let's give him a hand of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by stating that well, a number of students here who aspire to be what most of these important individuals who have just spoken want to be. And I must say, my boss happens to be a very good friend of the director of this center. In fact, he refers to him as patron. I don't know what patron means, but when I see him call him patron with another patron sitting here, Professor Eric Dankwa, and I see the way they relate and they fraternize, it becomes amazing and refreshing. And sometimes I ask myself, I mean, these are, excuse me to say, ordinary Africans, black people who probably came from nowhere, who couldn't have gotten to where they are. But what inspires me and what I want to share with you, and it goes back to the topic, lessons from the pandemic, is that whatever you are doing, you do it and do it well. If you are a scientist and you know the consequences of being in science, the difficulty and challenges that is associated with science in this part of our world, you cannot going in half prepared. You can only succeed if you do it well. Today we are celebrating WACBIM because the director, whatever he's doing it well. Tomorrow we'll be celebrating WACBIM because whatever the director is doing, he's doing it well. So I will leave you with this message, that in as much as you believe in what you are doing, you have to do it and do it well. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jinabo, for the excellent message and for the kind words to me and to WACBIM. I would like to just say that I'm just the voice of a lot of people. There's so many people who spend sleepless nights working to produce the data that I can communicate to government and also talk about in the media and inform the people. So we have something that we call the WACBIM machine. So many people are involved in making the machine work, from cleaners to drivers to professors. So this is credit to the entire machine. All right, thank you. So Dr. Nsiah is online to do the formal opening. After that, we'll move straight to the keynote speech today, and then we would wrap up. So I think we should be done by 12. So Dr. Nsiah is the Presidential Advisor on Health and one of our partners in the COVID-19 fight. So he would give some remarks and then formally open the conference. Thank you.
The Pro Vice Chancellor and the Chairperson for this occasion, all protocols observed. I'm very happy to be invited this morning to join you, especially at this time that the whole country is fighting for an imminent third wave, or we're already in the third wave. On behalf of the President and on behalf of the government, I say a big thank you to all of you, especially to Professor Awadari and his group for the good work that they've been doing for Mother Ghana. To the West Africa Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens, Ghana has been able to be doing genomic sequencing together also with what the Wuchi is doing, the University of Health and Allied Sciences is also doing. I'm very happy that at least we can pinpoint the different variants which are coming into the country. And we are very grateful to all that one of the earlier speakers said, the collaboration between scientists, academia, and policymakers. We want to do this so that Ghana becomes one of the hubs for manufacturing of vaccine. As you are all aware, His Excellency the President has formed a committee which is chaired by eminent scientist Professor Obnafem Bob-Watson, former Minister for MISTI. The committee is working around the clock to make sure that Ghana becomes a vaccine production country, and if not even for the country, for the West Africa sub-region of Africa sub-region. The committee is working assiduously towards that. And we know that the committee cannot work without the academia, without the scientists. We're working closely with the scientists in the various universities, and West Africa Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens is one of them. We are hopeful that through the good work that you are doing at the center, and together with Noguchi and other centers, will be able, maybe one day, very soon, come out with our own candidate vaccine. You know, you are equal to the task. You have the requisite people to do it. We, as a committee, have also been talking seriously how to make sure that we make the University of Ghana and its centers also very much put into place so that they can also do their best through technology transfer, human resources, capacity building, and also making sure that we get the necessary equipment to work. We hope that together with the private sector, we should be able to do this and do it as quickly as possible. We are very happy that you can continue working, and even though the resources, and together as a country, we come out very strong out of this pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has taught the whole globe a lesson, and what we have learned from it is that we have to be self-sufficient in a lot of things that we are doing. Move so that what go to also act with manufacturing countries in the world will do it, and we are going to make sure that we do it together with all of you, with the academia, with the scientific societies, with the scientists, with everybody who matters, so that together we put this country at a stage where everybody will look at Ghana as the hub for production of vaccines. We want to make sure, from what the African Union has said, that by the year 2040, we should be able to manufacture about 40% of the vaccines that we use in Africa, as compared to now that only 1% is manufactured here, and 99% of all our vaccines that we use, both for EPI and also for other vaccines, through importation. We believe strongly that we have the men and the women, we have the scientists, and we can use them appropriately, and we can achieve whatever we want to achieve. On that note, I'll say another big thank you to you, especially personally for inviting me to be part of this important conference and also to open the conference. I didn't know I was the one going to open the conference. So I'll take this opportunity to officially open the conference, and I hope that all the things that you are going to talk about, the decisions that you will take, will also be made available to government and to the president, so that together we move this country forward. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you. And I hope and I pray that you are going to have a very fruitful 3-day conference, which will be to the benefit of Ghana. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nsiansari. Please extend our regards to the president. I'm sure he's watching now on Zoom, so. All right, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to go to the keynote address. So I think if you want to sit here so you can see the presentation well, and then after that we take the closing remarks. Okay, good. So it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and my sister, who happens to be from Zimbabwe, where their president enjoyed one of our distinguished ladies, and so they are our eternal in-laws. So I hope all of you know that that the legendary President Mugabe, came in here and took a wife at some point. And so Francisca and I, we've been bargaining about how to compensate Ghana for that, given how successful Mugabe has become. Okay, so Francisca is a professor in global health, infection, and immunity at the University of Edinburgh. She's also the deputy director for the Tackling Infections to Benefit Africa, better known as TIBA partnership, and the co-director of the Global Health Academy at the University of Edinburgh. She's an award-winning pioneering researcher, a global health research leader, focusing on infectious diseases. She has made extraordinary contributions to combating neglected tropical diseases in Africa and empowering African scientists to be globally competitive. She sits on several reputable advisory bodies on the global level. A few include the WHO Africa Regional Directors Advisory Board, the UK Government's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, which is formerly known as DFID, now known as FCDO, their Science Advisory Group, the UK Research and Innovation, the UKRI, Global Challenges Research Fund Strategic Advisory Group, and very close to home, the Hideo Noguchi Africa Prize Selection Committee. She's on that committee. She's a fellow of the Zimbabwe Academy of Sciences, fellow of the African Academy of Sciences, and a fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. This year has been a very successful year for her. She was selected as one of the 2021 Aspen New Voices Fellows, and also as a TED Fellow. She, outside of science, is an artist and a philanthropist. And she gives away money to people, including athletes and all kinds of people. So you can talk to her after this. So my pleasure to present Professor Francisca Butabi.
As my colleague and friend Gordon Awandare said, I have met Gordon through many different paths. Initially as one of the reviewers of the Delta program in Africa, so I can only echo the pride and goodwill and congratulations that my friend and colleague Tom Kariuki has already passed on to Deltas, and of course the goodwill from the Ghana fraternity as they have been speaking earlier on. So I have been invited to talk about Africa-led science, what that looks like during a global pandemic. And I'm going to talk about this from the TIBA perspective. TIBA is another one of Professor Gordon Awandare's successes because we became part of the WACBIC family, I think in 2017, as a research partnership funded by the UK government. So, what does TIBA mean? See if we can get this to move. I'm not having a good technical. Oh dear. I will keep trying. No, it's not working. I shall try resharing that. Hope that we'll get somewhere. Okay, great. So, can you see that, please? Can somebody say? Could somebody please confirm if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you. So, after all this excitement, so TIBA stands for Tackling Infections to Benefit Africa. For the Swahili speakers in the room, it also means to cure an infection. It is an Africa-led, wide-ranging, multidisciplinary research program that empowers African scientists to tackle infectious diseases and strengthen epidemic preparedness. Oh dear, so that's gone all the way to the end. Oh, great. I'm not having a good... I think we can all go home. I think we can all go home now. We've seen the whole talk. Let's try again. Okay, so there we go. TIBA is represented in 9 African countries, of which Ghana is over here. You can see is one of our partners. Our leadership is as follows. We have a director, Professor Mark Woolhouse, and he's supported here by his 2 co-deputy directors, myself and our colleague from KZN in South Africa. Each of the TIBA partner countries, we have a PI, and you can see yours truly here in the corner. That's Professor Gordon Awandare, representing TIBA Ghana. We also work with centers of excellence at the University of Edinburgh, represented here, and colleagues in the pharma industry. As you've already heard, WACBIC is a data production machine. It is a lab-based machine, and this is reflected in all the other TIBA partner countries. We are all 4 lab scientists, we generate scientific evidence and information. We alone cannot translate this into health benefits. We need the input of specific partners, very important strategic partners, and these are the ones at the bottom here. Ministries of health in each of those countries play an important role, and I'm absolutely delighted to see representation of the Ministry of Health in Ghana present at WACBIP's conference today. We also work with our colleagues at African Academy of Sciences, both the AAS and IESA, and again, real fantastic support from our colleagues and friends led by Tom Kariuki there. The African Union is a very important stakeholder for TIVA, and work with the technical wing out the network. And of course, our World Health Organization regional office, WHO Afro. TIVA has a set of values and aims. We have 4 values, where Africa does is suggested by and led by our partners in the African countries. We are shifting the center of gravity to Africa so that decisions of health prioritization of what should be funded and what should be researched are set by our African colleagues. We believe in inclusive engagement, so from the community to the scientists, to the Ministry of Health and to the policymaker and stakeholder who funds any interventions. And then back to the community, because without the community uptake and buy-in, we cannot implement any interventions. And then finally, our partnerships are equitable. So TIVA has a budget, well, we started off with a budget of about £7 million funded for by the UK government through NIHR. 80% of that is spent in Africa by the African partners, because this is supposed to be really showing transformative partnership that is progressive. We also have several aims. The 4 aims of TIVA are first to improve diagnosis of infection and disease as well as surveillance, to improve deployment of existing drugs, vaccinations and treatments, enhance local capacity to develop new interventions, and improve management of endemic and epidemic diseases. And it is this last one that we are all discussing today in terms of how we have responded to the COVID-19 pandemic. And that last aim is captured in TIVA through our work package 6, our emergency response package. And we deliver the work of this in 4 different ways. First, by supporting the development of field diagnostics. So this is a portable mean iron. I have specifically chosen this because of its relevance to COVID. So this is a field diagnostic for viral infections. It advocates the sharing of resources and data, which is represented here by our genomic data. TIVA has been working to capacitate real-time genomic sequencing and analysis. And at this stage, I am not embarrassed at all to share a large part of the credit that has allowed WACBIP and a whole lot of other African institutions to lead in this emergency response in sequencing. Because in 2018, TIVA put together a training package for real-time genomic sequencing for viruses. And I'm even more delighted to say that that training workshop, which attracted over 23 scientists from about 15 countries in Africa, was hosted and co-run by WACBIP. So this is a photograph here of the team being trained in this at WACBIP, really preempting the need for this technology when we did have the COVID pandemic. So I can talk for the rest of the day on this because of the pride that TIVA shares in this, but I won't. I think it's enough for you today. The 4th one is maintaining resilience in health systems. So you can see here a photograph from 2019. So this is myself joining a of Zimbabweans who were meeting the then UK Minister for Africa. And what we were doing at this meeting was discussing the UK's response to the cyclone Idai, which devastated a lot of southern Africa, including Zimbabwe. And the issue here was, where do we put our money? Do we put our money in housing people, providing food? And I was arguing at that meeting that what we need to do is prioritize maintaining resilience in the health system, because the long-term impact of the cyclone would take its toll on people's health for years afterwards if we did not protect the health system. And I'm delighted to say that the UK government took this on board and did put some funding towards maintaining the resilience of the Zimbabwe health system. So what have we actually done during the pandemic? Well, TIBA's approach has been twofold. We've had in-country responses and research, such as what's beautifully highlighted here by WACMI, but we've also had a continental response. And that continental response has really been led by a team in Edinburgh, because everybody else in country has been busy focusing in country. So we have been looking at the global picture in Africa. We've had a team that's really a large team, and you can see myself and our director from here. And this team has been involved in two main pieces of work. First has been data-driven research looking at the epidemiology, the genome sequencing, mitigation strategy, and testing capacity of SARS-CoV-2 in Africa. And the second bit has been laboratory and public health research to support our colleagues in WHO Afro, and of course to conduct basic scientific research to inform us on a bit more about COVID-19, because of course we don't want to just wait for research and information from other countries or other continents to inform what's going on the ground in Africa. So this is what sort of outputs that we've got from this analysis. The first one is the epidemic situational report. TIBA produces every week an analysis or a synthesis of the WHO Afro data on the epidemic in Africa. We do this work in collaboration with our colleagues at WHO Afro. So we get the raw data and we synthesize it, and I shall show you some of what we've done beyond producing this. We have also produced testing reports, so the capacity to test for COVID-19 in all the African countries that are member states of the WHO Afro. And we've also looked at mitigation strategies, and this work was really mostly based in our TIBA partner countries to look at what has worked, what hasn't worked, how can we improve this by learning best practices from other countries. Now, all this information is available on the TIBA webpage with the link here. So if you would like to receive our weekly update on the epidemic in Africa, please do sign up on our webpage. We issue this to anybody who's interested every week. In addition to those reports, our work on that training workshop in 2018 from Ghana has now been extended in East Africa, led by our colleagues in TIBA, Kenya. And of course, at the end of the day, all this work we're doing to support our WHO Afro director and her team. So occasionally you'll see myself, our director, Professor Mampura, so any of the team members of TIBA supporting the director in her press briefings. So what have we learned about Africa's epidemic? So what I have here is an example of the synthesis of the data. We're looking at weekly cases from the start of the epidemic all the way to the second wave, the beginning of the second wave this year. So this is a movie which I'm going to run a little bit, and I will speed up, otherwise we'll be here all morning. And what this work is doing is looking at changes in the number of cases or deaths, and it tells us things like the doubling time. So if we look here, 0 means there are no cases, and 2 or greater than 2 means that the size of the epidemic is doubling every week. And what we can see as the map changes color is that cases have been very heterogeneous. Sometimes you have a small blip or a peak in a country, and this changes. And what we have been able to do is to summarize that. So if I speed this up a little bit, you can see when our first peak was in Africa there, and then I can continue the movie right up to where we were at the beginning of second wave. We can then take some summary data to let us know, and this is important for our continental bodies such as WHO Afro and the African Union for planning as to where to be looking to put a lot of resources. So here is a summary, looking at the daily new cases in WHO Afro member states. And you can see in blue South Africa and in purple the rest of Africa. And this is again all the way up to January this year. And what this tells you is that the number of new cases in South Africa alone was much, much higher than that in the rest of Africa put together. And this is also the case with daily new deaths. So obviously South Africa is suffering, is bearing the brunt of COVID-19 in Africa. So where are we in terms of the third wave? Well, this is from our situational report the one that I've just mentioned, from last Friday on the 15th of July. And these are exactly the same maps that I've been showing, and that map on the movie is represented here in the bottom. But please don't scrunch your eyes to see that. The bits that I'd like you to concentrate on are these two graphs here. So you can clearly see here total number of reported cases in Africa and the total number of reported deaths on the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave. And the bit I really would like to draw your attention to is this third wave here, because what we're beginning to see is that that third wave looks like it's beginning to turn, it's beginning to go down. Now, this will be fantastic news for the continent. Obviously, I cannot say this with complete certainty. It's more hope than certainty at the moment, but a few more weeks of data will be able to confirm if we really have seen the worst of the third wave. Obviously, the number of cases will be ahead of the number of deaths. So even after the number of cases has turned, we might see that the number of deaths is still rising. And this kind of information is very important for our continental bodies to plan ahead. In addition to synthesizing the information, we also want information that we can act on in future. And our team in Edinburgh has been working with our colleagues at WHO AFROM look at predictors of the date of the first case and the first wave per capita mortality. This is important because it informs our preparedness for the next epidemic. So, what we have done, we've taken all the data for the WHO Afro countries, and mapped for each country in red boxes here, the day that the first case was recorded in that country, and also in green here, the day that the first death from COVID was recorded in that country. And we've asked the question, what could predict this? What do we need to know when a country would record its first case or when it would record its first death? We've done this by analyzing a whole lot of predictors. Again, a microscopic slide here. Please take my word for it. It's got 19 predictors that we tested from Cox regression, univariate and multivariate. And we looked at several of these predictors, and only 3 came up as significant predictors. They were urban population, so the size of the urban population, the volume and traffic of international travel prior to the first case of COVID, and the number of neighbors who have testing capacity. Now, these seem obvious. We know that from the transmission dynamics of SARS-CoV-2, that a concentrated population, mostly indoors, with a lot of physical interaction, is a risk factor for transmission. And therefore, urban population does not come as a surprise. Secondly, international travel allows the seeding of the virus from other countries, and therefore that is no surprise. And finally, of course, if your neighbors can test and they can detect their first case, you will be looking for yours as soon as you know that it is around. And therefore, that one also comes as no surprise. So the way we interpret these predictors is that they were expected, and therefore they demonstrate the validity and utility of the data that WHO Afro-member countries have been producing. Now, this is really important because of all the doubts and information that was being expressed early on in the pandemic that Africa was not able to generate useful data or reliable data. Well, I'm sorry, this is the evidence that shows that we can, and we did. And we can take this further on and look at the predictors of the first wave per capita mortality. Again, 19 predictors put in the model. We used a Poisson model for univariate and multivariate analysis. We had 3 significant predictors: the urban population, the international travel, and HIV prevalence. And how do we interpret this? Well, urban population, again, high transmission settings are favorable to the COVID-19 transmission. International travel allows widespread seeding. And HIV prevalence is an interesting one because we don't think HIV itself is causative of that mortality, but we think HIV is a good proxy of a whole lot of other confounders that are captured in the HIV prevalence. So HIV prevalence looks like it is indicating a vulnerable population. We're very excited about this work. We're currently writing it up, and hopefully it will be published within the next month, if not at the end of this month.
This module is within the transformative curriculum course. It is part of transformative curriculum. We are calling it mainstreaming gender in curriculum. In your schedules, these ones, it reads engendering the curriculum. So we've made a change there because we didn't quite think that the word engendering was capturing what it is that we are doing in this module, which relates to what one of the participants, I'm looking for your name, which relates to what Rahim said, that he's expecting to hear more about designing curriculum and so on and so on. It's also about designing, but as you design it, are you gender responsive? Are you gender sensitive? So we have our session objectives. And some of you have already said something about expectations related to this. You will be able to understand gender issues, gender mainstreaming. We would be able to identify within your classroom environment or within your educational institution. We hope that you'll be able to identify gender issues. And then we'll be able to explain how gender influences learning and therefore why gender is important, why we need to mainstream curriculum. And finally, we hope that you'll be able to incorporate what we will have learned into your course outlines. Remember, you came with a course outline. We are saying by the end of this workshop, that that course outline should change or would change. So one of the changes you'll be looking for is that you have mainstreamed gender in your course outline. Any questions this far? Does anybody have a question? Okay, if there's no question, then we'll move on to do some group exercise. Around your table, one at a time. Around your table, there are orange and blue cards or stickers. These ones. Pick an orange sticker and within your group, discuss what a man can do that a woman cannot do. We write nothing if you think it's nothing. So whatever it is, if you think it's nothing, please go ahead and write nothing on the orange card. So in your table, you have the cards. So please write what a man can do that a woman cannot do. Please pay attention to the fact that the word cannot is underlined. The word cannot is underlined. Within the next 1 minute, I would like you within your table to identify one of the answers that you have. Every one of you has written something. Give me your best answer from that table. So I only need one response per table. From each table, I only need one response. We are looking for a doing word. A verb. A verb. What can a man do that a woman cannot do? I need my stickers. Let's get the stickers. Please bring the stickers. Please hand over a sticker per table. One orange sticker per table, please. On the orange, one sticker per table. Yes. One sticker per table, please bring them. Let's have them. Let's have them. We will close the activity. Only one from this table. It's the same thing. One from this table? We will close this activity because we don't have time. So just bring your sticker and then we close the activity. Only one. Only one activity. Good. Okay, we can use the ones we have. Please bring the ones you have. Forget about the others. Okay, that's enough. Mary, bring those ones. Those are enough. Next question. We have another question. Take a blue sticker. Take a blue sticker and agree aloud your table on one thing that a man can do, a woman can do, but a man cannot. Please note that the word can, cannot are underlined. Blue card. Take a blue card. On it, write one thing. A verb. Only one verb. Yeah? Blue. Blue. Let's have the responses. Let's have the responses, please. Let's have the responses. Bring the response. Give me the response, please. Responses. Give this to me. Yes, please. Any other? Please give it. Okay. So the blue card. Okay. Now, hello? So the pink, the orange card, I want to believe, has a verb about doing. It's about something that a man can do, but a woman cannot. On the right side of the front, from your end, you have stickers on what a woman can do that a man cannot. And I said we are going to lay emphasis on the word can and the word cannot. Yeah? Okay, while we are collecting the last posters, we would like to begin so that we can move on. We would like to start with the first question. And the first question was what a man can do that a woman cannot. So what I'll do, I'll be picking the stickers and reading the responses that you gave. And if we agree, I will put it up on the wall. If we don't agree, we will throw it away. Are we together? Then we'll be left with the correct answers. So somebody said that there is nothing that a man can do and a woman cannot. Do we agree? We don't agree, so this is not right. We remove it. Somebody said a man cannot give birth. This was not for this side. Somebody wrote on the wrong card. He said a man cannot give birth. That question was, yes. So it should have been on the blue card. We'll put it here for now. The next response that we got is that a woman cannot father a child. Yes. A woman cannot father a child. What do you mean by fathering? What does it mean to father? Or fertilize? That's the word. Cannot fertilize. When you use the word father, you confuse us. Because even playing with a child is fathering a child.
But you cannot fertilize a child, right?
No, we didn't say fertilize a child. It is fertilize a woman. But this was a woman cannot give birth, cannot father a child. So we are saying the word father is problematic. So we won't put it up there. Somebody said none. There's nothing that a man can do that a woman cannot. Is it right? No. Somebody said that a man can father a child, a woman cannot. Again, it's problematic. The word father doesn't quite help. A man can father a child, a woman cannot. A man can impregnate a woman cannot. Yes, and we all agree. So we'll leave it there, sitting there prominently. A man can impregnate a woman, it's the same thing. Nothing. There's nothing that a man can do that a woman cannot. Do you agree? No. Making a woman pregnant. A man can make a woman pregnant, a woman cannot. And the last one is that a woman cannot impregnate another woman. Okay. I'll remove these blue cards because they're in the wrong place. They would either be here or there. So if you notice, we've been left with 3 cards. And actually, all the 3 cards are saying the same thing. A man can impregnate a woman cannot. That is the one we agree with. Let's move on to the woman. What a woman can do that a man cannot. And let's see what it is she can do. One of the responses is that a man does not have monthly menstruation. Okay, it's the same thing, a month, it's exactly the same thing. A woman can be pregnant, a man cannot, can be pregnant. None, there is nothing that a woman can do that a man trash. A woman can carry a pregnancy, it's the same thing. A woman can get pregnant naturally, a man cannot. A woman can get pregnant, a man cannot. A woman can get pregnant, a man cannot. A woman can give birth, a man cannot. But it's the wrong color. What do you notice? But we don't have it there, but it's true. A woman can breastfeed a baby, a man cannot. Yes.
What do we make of the thing I read sometime in the past of what technology-assisted male reproduction?
That is technologically assisted. Okay. You have already said it is assisted. Technology can help us do things. Yeah? Now, you notice that very few cards were left on the wall. Do you notice that? Which tells us that there are very few things that a man can do and a woman can. And there are very few things that a woman can that a man can do. Now, on this end, we said a man, basically we have one card. A man can impregnate a woman a woman cannot. On this other side, basically we have one thing. A woman can get pregnant, a man cannot. Yeah, the second card is about menstruation, which is about getting pregnant anyway. So in essence, we are saying it's only one thing, by and large. Yeah? What else do you notice about those two? Does anybody notice something about the two? They are biological. They are biological. Yeah? What else do we notice? They are natural. What else? Good. They are natural. They are biological. What else do we notice? They are God-given. Okay. God-given, natural.
They involve the input of the other person.
Thank you very much. They are complementary. They complement each other. A woman will not get pregnant without a man. So they complement each other, and they are biological, and they are natural. They are God-given, if you wish. But let's move to the next two questions. The question of may. We'll do the same thing. We'll begin by seeing what a man may do that a woman may not. Again, if we agree, we'll remove the card. If we agree, we'll leave the card on the wall. If we don't agree, we remove it. Yes, question 3 on the screen. What may a man do that a woman may not? So what a man can do that a woman, this is can. We don't want can now. So they're on that side. So what a man may do that a woman may not are actually here. Why we were insisting on the cards is to help us identify them quickly, but somehow we mixed the cards. So a man may be a night security, a woman may not. So we put it up or we remove it? We remove it. Okay. The next one, a man may be a night guard, a woman may not. A man may climb a palm tree, a woman may not. I hear some yes. Somebody who is saying yes can tell us. No, let's listen. The perspectives are important. Somebody says yes.
Yes. I've never seen a woman climbing a palm tree to tap palm.
The question was not have you ever seen? No, the question was
may.
Or may not. Okay. So I want to say may climb a palm tree is correct. It's not. Why is it not? Yeah? It is not culturally acceptable. We are not on can anymore. We moved on, we are on may.
It's culturally unacceptable. That does not mean that a woman may not do it.
We underlined the word may. Remember, we underlined the word may. So what do we mean when we say may? May. May choose. It is optional. It depends. When you say may, English is difficult. But anyway, we'll try to unpack it. Very often when we say may, we are more or less saying permitted. Am I right? Yeah? It's permitted. So we are saying society does not permit women to climb palm trees. And that's why I'm saying it's correct. It's not. Let's hear you.
Some parts of the country, like Akwa Ibom or the eastern part, I think.
Wonderful, wonderful. She has said what I was looking for. She has said in some parts of this country, in some parts of Nigeria, women actually climb palm trees. And their society expects them to and accept that it is okay for them. So they may. But in other communities, they may not. Very strongly. The other communities very strongly think that women may not climb palm trees. So we don't even need to go through all the others. But the point we are making here is, and it's the point that she has brought out, is that may varies from community to community. So before you answer, a woman may climb a tree, you need to tell us where, among which community, in which context. Sometimes it's not even about the same, about community. You can find that in the same community, depending on where they live, some may, others may not. Yeah. Why? Because gender is dynamic. It is not like sex, which is static. When you're born in Kenya and you're born male, and you migrate to Nigeria, you will still be male. Unless you do some sex change technology. Yeah? If you're born male, 100 years later, you will be male. You will die male. Yeah? Are we together? But gender changes. A community may think this today, but over time, they might think about it and decide, no, let women climb trees. They change. Yeah? Why? Because gender is a social construct, cultural construct. It is constructed by society. It is constructed by cultures. So it will vary from one culture to another. And because culture is dynamic, it will vary from time to time. Yeah? We said sex is natural, it's factual. We didn't argue. When we were talking about what a man can do, there were no arguments. It was very easy. But when it came to gender, now there was, because this is about perceptions, it's about what we know, what we believe, what we think, what we have been told, rather than about what it is. And it's very easy to agree on sex because we know when we know who males are, we know who females are. We can't argue around that. But when it comes to gender, because of the variance from context to context, then it becomes a very emotive issue. And even in real life, you find that when you say, let's talk about gender, it becomes very emotional. It becomes very controversial because people have different perspectives and different ideas depending on where they are coming from. So any question on the differences between gender and sex? Do we seem clear on gender now? Yes, we have a question.
Now, I want to ask, if you are filling a form and they say sex, because you are static, you choose me, because I'm a man. If they say gender, can I choose femininity?
Very often, the two terms are used interchangeably as if they are one and the same thing. There is confusion around the use of the term, and we will see why that confusion is there. Because we use sex to define gender. You can't define gender without sex. You notice that? Because society constructs gender on the basis of sex. It says you are a man, therefore you can climb trees. They even say can now. They forgot it was a may, they say can. You are a woman, so you can cook. But the issue is not can, it is may. The society is saying, because you're a man, you may not go to the kitchen. So sex is used as the basis for constructing expectations and behaviors and attitudes about men and women. Otherwise, when we are talking about sex, we are talking about biological, natural, given. When a child is born, we all say, let's celebrate, it's a baby girl. There are no arguments. Nobody says, no, it's a boy. No, people agree. Yeah? Because it is biological. It is male, female. So that issue is still out there. And we see many forms like that. Any other question? Any other question? Okay. So that helps us understand gender. What is gender then? If you ask to define gender, what would you say it is? Somebody, quickly. Yes, give her the microphone. What is gender?
I'll say gender is a sex role that is defined by the community by a lot of things that the society expects of a person.
Okay.
So it's
gender is
on the role that's and expectations.
Gender is a sex role. Do you agree? Do you agree? I don't agree. Do you agree? Why do you agree? Give him the microphone. I don't agree. It's not a sex role.
Yeah, it's what we see a man doing in the society. Then we say, yeah, this is a man, or masculinity.
Yeah.
The ego that comes with it. Sometimes one man used a word. I said, please, I want you to answer this woman because it's manly. So it's manly, meaning that our approach and attitude towards things is fussy, like a man. So that's why.
Let's get to the next click, please. Next click. Gender is often conflated. When you say gender is a sex role, you are conflating gender and sex. You are mixing them. Gender is not sex. We have just said. Gender role is not sex role. It's a gender role. It is based on sex, but it is not sex. It is conflated with sex, confused or mixed up with sex. You use sex to define gender, but that doesn't mean gender is sex. So we have sex roles, sexual roles, reproductive roles, like giving birth, but we have gender roles, like cooking is a gender role. Climbing a tree is a gender role. Security guard watching at night is a gender role. Those roles which are based on what your biology is about are sex roles. Those ones which are based on society deciding you are a man, you stay out in the night and watch quality. So we have gender roles and sex roles. We have gender attributes, we have gender rights, we have principles, we have characteristics, and so on and so forth. Gender is very often concerned about entitlements that some people get and others don't get on the basis of their sex. But the entitlements have nothing to do with sex. Are we together? So because some people are female, society says they are entitled to this. But that entitlement has nothing to do with sex. Yeah? In some communities in Africa, certain groups of people may not eat certain foods because they are men or women. What has men and women got to do with foods? Conflating. Yeah? You say, women, in my community, pregnant women don't eat eggs. They are not supposed to eat eggs. Yes. Because they are women. Why are you saying, they are women? Why should they eat eggs? What's the problem? Yes, who is the medical doctor? Who is the medical doctor?
If they were not pregnant, they would eat eggs. So it's not because they are women. It's just because they are pregnant. No, the issue is that if they are not pregnant,
okay, let me use. I agree. I used a different illustration. Let me use another one. Women in my community may not eat gizzards. You know gizzard? Gizzard from the chicken. Women may not eat gizzards because they are women. Even here. So you see, what has a gizzard to do with being male or female? What is the relationship between a gizzard and female or male? So that then we say, because you are a male, you may eat a gizzard. Because you are female, you may not. So you realize that there is nothing in sex that justifies gender. And yet, we justify gender on the basis of sex all the time. You say a woman may not wear a trouser. Why? Because she's a woman. A man may not wear a skirt. Why? Because he's a man. What has sex got to do with a skirt? Yeah? It's cultural, exactly. It's a socio-cultural construct. Are we together?
Okay. I was going to add that I don't think we should be considering sex and gender like they are not dependent on a number of other things. They are dependent on religion, dependent on culture. For instance, men in Scotland wear skirts, and it doesn't look abnormal there because the culture permits it. So we cannot be talking about gender and sex like they are just two independent variables. They are dependent on a number of other things that should come simultaneously in the discourse.
Very good, and we'll get there. You're just a little ahead of where we are. We'll get there. So we would like to, So we would like to talk about some terms which we think are important for us to understand before we can think of mainstreaming gender in our curriculum or integrating gender in our curriculum. And the first concept we would like to talk about is gender blind and gender insensitivity. Yeah. When you're gender blind or gender insensitive, you can't mainstream gender. You can't integrate gender in a curriculum because you are blind or you are insensitive. And basically it's about having the ability to identify. If you can identify, then you are not blind. If you can't identify, then you are blind. Are we together? You identify the differences between female students and male students. If you identify that they have different needs, not that some have needs and others don't. All of them have needs, but their needs are different. If you're able to identify, then you're not blind. If you're able to if you're not able to identify, you are blind. If you're able to identify, you are not blind. So we would like to be, not to be blind, so that we are able to integrate gender in our curriculum. Insensitive means you can identify, but you are not responding. You can see the difference. You can realize that men have different needs with women, but you are not responding to those needs. You ignore them. Then we say you are not sensitive. So we would like to be gender aware, not gender blind, and we would like to be gender sensitive so that we can integrate gender in our curriculum. Next slide, please. And when we are gender sensitive and gender responsive, it means we are recognizing the differences between male and female. And as he has said, you get there, male who have other characteristics and females who have other characteristics. Because men are not homogeneous. All men are not the same. And all women are not the same. And on the basis of other factors, they lose out, they are excluded, they are denied some entitlements, they have special needs, and as teachers, we need to be responding to those needs as they manifest themselves in a classroom environment or in an institution, an educational institution. And his comment brings us to the concept of intersectionality. So we talk about gender and intersectionality. So being gender aware and gender sensitive is not just about recognizing the different needs of men and women. It's not just about disaggregating by sex. Very often you hear people say, this is a very gender-blind table, because they've looked around and they have seen there are 4 men. There's not a single woman. There's a gender-insensitive table here. They are insensitive. If you can come into a room and you don't see that this table has women only. You won't see, you don't see. When you are gender-blind, you don't see. When you are gender insensitive, you may see, but you do nothing about it. So you need to identify and respond. But now we are saying it's not just about 4 women sitting at a table. Because if you are looking at women alone, you are looking at sex alone, it means you are disaggregating by sex. It goes beyond that. It goes to talk about other variables. What are the other variables that are intersecting with sex to create exclusions, to provide entitlements or positive discrimination, and you analyze those things. So in a classroom, it's not enough to say, my class has 30 students, I need to have 15 boys and 15 girls. That is very superficial gender response. You want to look at other factors. And we'd like to illustrate the difference. Next. Supposing you looked at a university in some university in Africa, and you found that those were the statistics. There are 30 male in that university, and there are 30 female and 60 male. What would you conclude on the basis of that data?
Gender imbalance.
Yes, you'd say there is gender imbalance. And we agree with you. And what would we do? What are we likely to?
I would not say it's gender imbalance.
Yes.
I would just look at maybe the parity in terms of we may have more male in the society,
yes,
and few female in the society. And so that is the
very
mix.
good. So you want to go to the larger society and see what is the distribution of men and women in the society before we look at these ones in the university. But another thing we may want to look at is another factor, which is where intersectionality comes in. Next slide. If you disaggregate the data by discipline, you begin to see something very different from what you had seen.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Agenda 2063 TV show, the only show in Ghana, the region and continent, telling you authentic stories about Africa's development. And even though we have spent the better part of some episodes telling you about the African Continental Free Trade Area, we always come back down to issues around Agenda 2063 and its development, because it's important, it's critical to the conversation about where Africa needs to be and where it needs to go. So my name is Emmanuel K. Benson Jr. I'm your regular host. Thank you once again for spending time with me. You're going to have a great show. We'll be right back. All right, so welcome back from the break. So as usual, we're going to have our two segments, the Africa Peer Review Mechanism Watch, and then the year on East Africa. With APRM, we just want to go back to basics a bit. It's a new year, so it's important to remind viewers about what the African Peer Review Mechanism is. So the Africa Peer Review Mechanism is a voluntary assessment of member states, how they are doing, how they are faring. On a set of parameters. How are they doing in good governance? How are they doing as far as decentralization is concerned? And all these other very important issues. However, not all member states are part of it. Right now we have about 39, around 40 member states that have acceded to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, which means we have about 50 more countries to go. Now there's not enough time, because by 2023, the hashtag being towards universal accession by 2023, almost all or all member states should have acceded to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism, which means that in the next 1.5 years, we should really have gotten all those 15 countries. So the question then is, what are we going to do as Africans to make sure we put pressure on our member states to do the right thing and sign up to the Africa Peer Review Mechanism? It's an important thing. The Africa Peer Review Mechanism is an important institution. Just last December, they started having discussions around the African Governance Report 2021. What is it that Africans need to see by 2063? Is it a bright future? Is it a negative future? Is it a future where nothing is working? And largely, we are happy to say that the studies show